Chapter 1. The woman at the fair had looked vaguely familiar, though Iris Reeves couldn't say where she might have seen her before. Iris hadn't wanted to go to the fair, but she'd won tickets through a church raffle, and her friend, Geneva Pomelo, slender, tall, and still youthful-looking, even in her late 50s, had insisted that they couldn't go to waste. So they had driven out on a Friday night, the first Friday in November and the last night before the fair closed for the rest of the year. Walking the fairground, Iris was reminded of all the reasons why she disliked county fairs. The air smelled suffocatingly of funnel cakes and bloomin' onions and cotton candy. A roller coaster careened overhead, its occupants shrieking with hands raised like worshippers in a church. A clown with disturbingly large shoes and makeup that had been only lazily applied stumped around the edges of a tent, the one advertising the Ape Mermaid, drinking out of a silver flask that smelled of a beverage not sold at the fair. And that was before they had even seen the fortune teller. She was seated at the edge of the grounds, bathed in dusky purple light, a shawl wrapped around her head in the style of a turban and decorated with beads of assorted colors. She wore the kind of long floral skirt that had been fashionable when Iris's mother was a young woman, and a white-yellow shirt with large buttons. Her dark eyes glittered faintly from behind oversized frames. "Are you brave enough to sift the sands of time?" she asked in a broad and vaguely offensive Eastern European accent. We don't have any money, thank you," said Iris, but the fortune teller shook her head in dismissal. "For the two of you," she said, "no charge. Spread your hands and let me see what the fates have in store." Despite the hokiness of the woman's voice and appearance, Iris felt vaguely uneasy. Geneva, however, never one to shy away from an adventure, took her by the arm. "It won't cost us anything," she said. "Probably give us a good laugh." Geneva had gone first. Lowering her glasses, the woman examined her right palm closely. "I see a man in your life," she said. "You pretend not to be interested, but you sit up at night wondering what could happen." Geneva's face flashed. She had a friend, George Wilson, a 62-year-old retiree who wanted to be more than friends. So far, however, she had proven immune to his charms. Or maybe she was just stubborn. "Don't pass up an opportunity." The lady closed Geneva's hand. "You might find love where you weren't looking for it." Geneva stepped away looking troubled, and Iris came cautiously forward. She knew how this worked, of course. Fortune tellers were skilled at close reading, the practice of making vague statements that could reasonably be applied to anyone. Still, she was taken slightly aback when the lady closed her hand abruptly and said, "You need to leave Wrangler's Hill at once." The effect was so stagey and theatrical that at first Iris was inclined to laugh. She figured this must be part of the act, something the lady did for every third or fourth customer to keep from getting bored with her job. She had turned deathly pale, though. If she was acting, she was doing a good job of it. "Both of you need to leave," she said. "You've been in danger before, grave danger. On 2 separate occasions, you've looked into the face of a criminal. What you are about to face, though, will be worse than anything you've seen yet." She gestured broadly at the clouds overhead, backlit by a slowly sinking orange sun. "Murder is in the air, and no one in Wrangler's Hill is safe."